Last time I said I need a plan, and I have a plan, at least, kinda. I thought, the best way to learn probably is by just doing. So what I'm gonna do is I'm try and make a complete little scene, that could be in a movie or in a series, in a TV show, or whatever. And I have written down just a small sentence, of what's happening. And it's basically just he wakes up in a shock, sits on his bed, and then climbs out of his bed. That's basically the sentence I have. And so today I'm probably gonna do the storyboard and rough animation. And so just that we see what I mean. And let me wait a minute. I'm gonna start with this actually, a storyboard template. So what I have in mind, really rough is just he lays there and he under his blanket, and then he wakes up in a shock, so closed eyes, open eyes, and I don't really want to zoom in that much, so it's supposed to be the same scene, same cut, so cut one, and then here, he kind of moves towards, he moves up, and then we cut to this, where I don't really know how to frame it, but like this, maybe put that down a bit, just a bit, and then and then he moves up, and then he climbs out by Donna. He switches so that he sits like this, and then maybe what it's called, a wide shot, like he hits the ground and then he dances on the ground like this, just really rough. All right, so now the rough animation. So I planned on him, he sleeps. I'm gonna first still make this just rough figure thing, and then I obviously gonna put a character onto this, because it's supposed to be a complete scene in the end, and I think I like this scaling. This should do the job. I never really drew a blanket. Here his eyes are closed, so what I'm doing now is basically just take my storyboard and make that, I think it's called animatic, or the layout, where just make my animate my storyboard basically, so I know roughly how it's supposed to be looking when moving. And here what I'm actually gonna do is I duplicate this and I just open the eyes, but then he's already supposed to already move upwards, because he's he's having a nightmare, and so he immediately sits up, like it's often shown in movies. Alright, and then basically this is supposed to be in one motion. He opens his eyes and immediately starts to sit up, and then we have, so this is basically two cuts in one. Does this make sense? And here we have this, he has his pillow and he's lying like this. This is really bad. Like this, and here it's blanket. So basically I have now this. Let's see how it looks. I think I just need, I think it's good on, but I just, like like this. Yeah, this works. However, I need to, well, it's only rough animation, so it's, you know, I only need to get the movement right now. So about everything else, like this bad, it's bad. It is really bad. But I guess if I do that, either I'm gonna do a background painting, which I plan on doing because I really need to learn this, or I'm gonna use CGI for this. But no matter what I'm gonna do, then have to animate over this basically. So like this. But I'm gonna try something, because right now everything is in the same folder. However, what if I give everything its own folder like this, and then obviously I need to make this end here. So now he sits there for a bit until here, for example, and then he starts, you know, sit. You know what I'm actually gonna do? I'm gonna draw this on a separate layer that isn't affected in the animation, so I don't have to redraw the bed all the time. This won't be the final version of the bed, but you know, just for now, so I can keep consistency. And this only starts here. So, however, something I didn't thought about, animating how he, you know, pushes the blanket away, you know, to the front, could be challenging to animate. I mean, I could also just remove the blanket from all the shots. Either that, or I have to, you know, when he now, you know, like sits faced towards the camera, but he faces the camera now, like this. However, then the blanket is now here, and I just noticed the pillow went missing. So let me just draw it here. And the blanket is giving me some problems. Let's just draw it like this for now, but this is later, because now he needs to go into this position. I need to move this to the right a bit, because this makes more sense. Here he is on one leg of the bed, and here this blanket, I guess, looks like this now. Or I changed the blanket here, something like this. I think I should have just removed the blanket, but this looks okay. Looks okay. This is again only really rough, so I know how the basic movement should look like. And then he sits like this for a bit, and then he basically leans a bit forward, you know, to stand up basically, and pushes himself up with his hands, you know, off the bed. Then he stands something like this. And however, between there and there, I want another frame here, roughly, you know, where he's jumping off the bed a bit, so he goes like a bit into his knees. This is really rough. No, I'm not happy to change this frame, and the blanket is just vanished. That's not good. Well, he needs to lean forward here, you know, in order to jump off. I'm not happy. Wait a minute. Alright. I have it now. So basically what I did is I couldn't find any reference online, so I recorded my own reference, which I obviously can show you now, because it's me and I want to show myself. But I basically just recorded me acting out, at least roughly, you know, what's supposed to be here. And I think that's especially like for this gonna be really useful. I think it's okay until like here. Alright, so I basically have to change every pose from this point on. Well, he obviously still sits here, so we're gonna keep this. But what I did when I, like pushed the blanket to the side, I kinda lean or weight on my hand here and just, I don't know, stabilize myself. Is that the correct word? And my legs were kinda like this actually. So we have this here and like this. It's well, the second arm, I forgot about the second arm. We don't want that. It's basically like this, and grabbing here this blanket. Problem of the recording is that I can't see the floor on this recording. That's not that good actually, but well, there are worse things, So my head is a bit down actually in comparison to this prior frame, like this. And here I'm again. Blanket now is like this, with the feeling that this blanket shrinks a lot, but this doesn't really matter. And yeah, well, this is actually supposed to be behind the blanket, so I'm gonna use this soft eraser to make it a bit less visible, like this. And then I sit to the same here, the soft eraser. And then let's get rid of this blanket, and the rest of the pose is actually okay. I'm gonna keep that. I didn't want to do that. I think it looks a lot better already, doesn't it? And then he only needs to jump the bed, which I'm gonna redraw as well. And well, I mean, I can just maybe make it like this, like this, and have, maybe have the feet outside of the frame. But still, well, it's bad because this lower part, I actually can't see my reference. So what I'm gonna do is find another reference. Either I'm stupid to find any reference, or I don't know, I can't find any reference. Just for a simple thing as like, for a pose like this. But I'm actually, let me try something now. Well, let's just go with it. Looking like this. Better than nothing, I would say. And now he just, has to stand straight. Well, I'm relatively happy with the motion actually now. However, here is one thing's missing, and that is actually two things. Well, one is the missing pose where he pushes himself off the bed, and the second is his hands aren't on his knees, or at least I didn't have my hands on my knees or on my legs when sitting on my bed in this pose. So this is one thing. Second thing is I need the pose where I push myself off, so I'm still sitting this like a child, like this frame, because of the arms, I would say, and maybe because this proportions are just weird. Let me try and change it and make it more like this. Actually, okay. Yeah, I'm actually at least somewhat satisfied with this result. So I'm gonna leave it like this for now. And next time I'm gonna do the background, the whole background, not just a sketch, because then I think I have an easier time animating over it, or with the, clean up animation, because, well, this is, okay to get the movement right, or to, know what it's supposed to look like, at least somewhat. However, I obviously still need to, put a character on top of this and clean up these drawings. you know. But I'm gonna do this after I make the background, because I think I have an easier time then, because I then have also a, reference for the height, I would say, or for the scale, because, well, this doesn't really help this sketch of the bed. Alright then, thank you all for watching, and until next time, and where I try to figure out how I do the backgrounds. I'm not really good at painting, but that's another thing I can learn. So yeah, until next time, bye.